We are connected. So this should mean that I'm live. Welcome back. Hello. Hi. Don't mind me, I'm just here. Okay. It's been a while. Hi. I've been seriously trying to get my internet to work again. And somebody who has the engine outside. Feels good, man. Alright. I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret. I don't drink. And then I've never actually done it. I just never really felt like it. Every time I tried to taste alcohol, it tastes gross. So I just don't bother. But I figure, you know what, fuck it. Now it's a good time to get drunk. You know what I mean? Just those point down a little bit more so it's not right in my eyes. Don't mind me, I'm just trying to set up the advertisements as it were. It has been a frustrating couple of weeks because I have not been able to really connect to the internet very well, like at all. So I went out and got my own. That's kind of what I'm doing here. So, I only got one bottle of alcohol, and that is Point Rider Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. It seems like a cheaper version of Jack Daniels. I assume that's what it was. And I also got a big 2-liter of Coke. So we're gonna drink Jack and Coke, boys. I also have over here the horn. It is a bona fide drinking horn. I figure I can use that as like anytime somebody like subscribes or whatever it is for Twitch into the channel. So we get any of those like doodaloo things to show up on the stream. I will just drink the whiskey from the horn. That's my plan. And I'm gonna paint some minis that I don't actually use for anything. So there's no risk if I fuck up because I'm drunk, you know? So let's crack this thing open. Strong smell. Okay. I have no idea what this tastes like. I've never done it before. Alright. Got that alcohol aftertaste. Jeez. I've also got something to wash it down with. Okay.
It doesn't matter how much you know about implementation.
Maybe we won't do the drinking from the horn thing. Ugh. Yeah. I hate that taste. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Maybe this is a mistake. I don't know. I don't feel drunk. I imagine it doesn't hit right away. You know, I just take the aftertaste and kind of warm, I suppose. Yeah. I don't know, it was like the worst part of Coke and alcohol at the same time. Alright. Let's think these language then. I can like feel my jaw clenching up to that. Feel free to talk, by the way, everybody. Okay. The wet palette. Oh, worked up a little bit. Yeah. Nope, it's nasty. Alright. So these guys are supposed to be blue, right? I want to try glazing a bit. So I'm going to use Drakenhof Nightshade and the Shade Wash. But I'm going to mix into it the Melamian Medium, which is like it basically is going to make it goopier. Brush. The shade washes are the one thing that I do not have, actually. I'm painting a Stormcast, so that's why the paint palette is red, and mostly red. Because red's one of the colors they use in that paint scheme. It turns out pretty well, but they're also like my main 80 Figma army at the moment, so I don't want to like ruin them by being drunk while painting, you know. I'll try this at home. Actually, the thing with the Citadel paint pot, they're fucking pain in the ass to get stuff onto the wet palette properly. Yeah, so this is on in medium. You're supposed to like mix it in to your paint. And it'll sort of change the consistency of your paint. You can see it's becoming more like paint-like instead of just watery strings of paint. We're actually getting like a consistent paint tone. So let's try and glaze a bit on for skin tone onto this Vanguard boy. I'm actually really liking that. Basically all of the like darkest blue goes like into the recesses where his muscles are. And it ends up looking like really nice. But it also tints it sort of a gray blue, like overall. Do the I guess I suppose it might just be sort of looking gray to you, and I mean it is, you know, it's kind of what glazing ends up looking like. It'll look like the color that it was underneath, which in this case is sort of a light gray. But like the darkest recesses here are still sort of turning a grayish color. Unless I can get a point to show you. I don't know if you can see there. Basically the musculature there is like the in between the muscle there, it's blue. That's sort of what I'm trying to go for. A bit of a subtle effect, but it looks really nice. I wonder if you could do this with like on flesh shade and get like a similar effect out of it. I feel like you could. That aftertaste, man. if I can show it off like that. Oh yeah, that's a bit better. Yeah, with the light right behind you, you guys can see the little like gray blue of its skin there. I bet if I showed you a comparison, that'd probably be a bit better actually. This boy and this lad. You can see kind of the comparison in skin tones here. One's a lot darker and tinged a bit more blue. And even if I switch them around. And this is the way to sort of keep that like Menethol highlighting that I did with the white over the gray. Because otherwise I'd be covering it up. And because it's so subtle, like white over gray instead of white over black, as you normally see with Menethol, it looks a lot better, I think. So yeah, I actually really like how this turned out. You can see on the back too, there's part of that's actually mold line. Yeah. You can also see in the arm there, where the muscles are all meeting. And in the legs here. You can also see it sort of in the hand. In the hand. Come on. Autofocus on the hand. Come on. Oh well. Yeah, regardless, it's sort of I felt pretty good. Do it again.
think all art and imagination at some point leads you to think about things that aren't true.
Yeah, it's kind of subtle, but you can sort of see it, right? It's sort of blue-gray skin tone. That's what I'm going for. turning out pretty well. Very good time. Like I'm doing. Now it's a matter of what to paint next on this. I'm not entirely sure. I feel like the next thing to do is paint the all swirl and magic stuff underneath. You know, like this stuff. But other than that, I'm not entirely sure what to paint. I wish I had somebody to talk to in here. I think everybody I know has already fallen asleep. Kind of me. Well, there's always one thing we can do here. We can always look up paint schemes that other people have done. Now with my improved internet, I can actually see and not worry about the thing like crashing. Okay. Makes sense. Okay. Okay. Well, Internet's like, dude, color waffle button. Yeah, blue can make sense. Looks like I'm seeing most like people do pink for the disc that they're writing on. And then really it seems like any magic-ish color works for the bottom. I'm seeing some green, I'm seeing some pink, some like blue-green. Oh man, if this what drunk me is like, I'm just tired. What's the point of getting drunk then? I'm always fucking tired. Feels bad, man. Feels real bad. Okay. Why the fuck am I yawning? Why am I tired? Yeah, the general vibe I'm getting is blues and pinks, with like some highlights of green or gold. No, I think I've had a little bit of alcohol, and I wonder if maybe that's what's making me tired. Cause I'm like only just now getting tired. Also, hello, how are you doing? I'm doing Bangor. Cause I figured if I was gonna get drunk, I wouldn't want to fuck up, you know, painting something that I actually plan on using. All I've done so far is the skin tone. I've got 3 of them, so it's sort of like a bluish gray. It's not super like noticeable, and that's kind of the point. It's meant to be very subtle. It's good to see that you're doing okay. I'm doing alright too. I got the internet set up. Where was I? And I'm painting. Internet's really nice. Feels good to feels good to have internet that. No, I didn't drop a model. I just dropped the model holder. I don't know where it went. Oh man, this thing's fine. It's just a chunk of plastic. The model is fine. I didn't drop any of them. Okay, I mean, is this what it feels like to be drunk? And just sort of, like, tired and lazy. Because that's not much of a change from me and normally. So if that's the case, there's no point in me ever getting drunk. Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out like what part of it I should paint next and what color that should be. I figure the thing that makes the most sense would be like the disc or the little magic thing that's holding the disc up first. Oh, it's actually, I should mention, the internet's good enough that I can do low latency. So I can like respond almost immediately to you guys. Which I imagine is nice. You know, now we're not like waiting 2 minutes for me to respond to a generic question. Yeah. Yeah, I mean like, real quick. Yeah. I was just looking up like what other people have done for these guys. And the general consensus seems to be blue and pink as like the two main colors, with like something else as a highlight, like a bright green or gold, or like a blue green. I'm trying to figure out like what I want to paint next, like what. I wonder, could I do the same glazing effect on the magic with Cobra Crimson? Maybe I should do that for his shoulder. Plagued with indecisiveness. Actually, unrelated to painting, I feel like this internet now is good enough to run Tabletop Simulator and stream myself playing it. I wonder if I can reach out to Matt and get an AOS game set up on TTS. One that isn't like laggy as all hell and, you know, completely unable to tell what's happening in it. Ooh. Well, I didn't even show off what I got to you. I got Point Rider bourbon whiskey, and I regret it. It's disgusting. Got such a fucking nasty aftertaste. You can taste it every time you like burp up or anything like that. 0 out of 10, do not recommend. I don't know if I keep like nodding off like this. I'm getting more tired and kind of thought I was stream. I don't know. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Yeah. I don't know, the weirdest part is like I didn't start feeling tired until like 20 minutes ago. I don't know. Yeah, I think we'll split things up next time I stream. Which maybe tomorrow? I don't know. I'll reach out to Matt, see if he's able to play an iOS game on TGS. Otherwise, I could play with you, Ninja Jedi, if you want. And see like how your army play in iOS. Sort of like see if it's the type of game that you even like playing, that kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, you know, I feel like it's simple enough to like once you get the hang of it. It's sort of like D&D, I think. Like, it looks complicated, but then like once you get it, it's like that's it. You know what's going on. And then obviously, if you watch the game, that I'm kind of assuming me and Matt would have, you can kind of get an idea of how the game plays. Yeah, it would also give both of us a chance to play different armies than we normally do. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that makes sense. I kind of want to try out Lumineth again. I played one game of them on TGS. And I got wrecked because I was playing against Caradron, which is pretty hard to play again. If you like don't know what you're doing, or if you don't know how to play against them. Yeah. I don't know. Oh, maybe I could play a Lizard Man on me. I feel like you'd enjoy that, you know. Yeah. Play the big, what are the big toad dudes on the shows called? Bon, that's it. Lion? Whatever they're called. Ugh. That model looks fun to paint. Yeah. Yeah, I think we're gonna wrap up for the night. I do like how the glazing effect looks for skin tones here. We'll show it off again. Nope. kind of see the sort of darkest recess of the blue tint, and then everything's sort of a grayish blue. This is... So, what I did is an effect called Menethol Highlighting, and I do it fairly often. It's basically where you take some kind of lighter color, and you just from directly above, usually with an airbrush or like a primer or whatever, spray directly down onto the top of the mini. Over, assuming that it's got like a darker color that is primed all over in. And the effect is that you get like the highest, like, top point in the brightest color. And I did the same thing with white ink through an airbrush, which is like this smoothest look in this effect. And I did it over gray. So there's not like that much difference between the white and gray tone, and so it ends up blending when I use the glaze to all look the same sort of grayish blue, but with still clear like highlight. So I'm pretty proud of that. I think that turned out pretty well. Normally with Menethol Highlighting, you don't actually end up seeing it through the end result. So this is pretty nice. Because a lot of times you use like a thicker paint, and it can tend to sort of cover up the undercoat that you did underneath it. And it doesn't completely do that. If you take like a side-by-side of like black primer and white primer, and you paint the same color over both, there is a difference in the tone of the color. But it's very subtle, and it's not something that the human eye can always pick up on. And that's, essentially what Menethol does. The other way I see people use it is to note all the highlight points. They'll take a picture of the mini after it's been Menetholed, and then they'll refer back to that picture while painting it so that they know, where the highlights are supposed to be when they paint it. This is like all really more advanced stuff. Most beginners, no need to give a fuck about it. The other way to use it is to use contrast paint, which is still like a different version of what I've done here. With a slightly thicker paint. Contrast paint. Got some at the bottom here. This is ultramarine blue. That's what it's called, yeah. This is a blue color, and the way this will work is that it's liquid like shade washes, but not as like watery. Because like these shade washes are basically water, with like a little bit of paint pigment in it. And what I did is I added medium to it to sort of thicken it up. My bad. I don't know if that dropped the connection or anything. Okay, yeah, looks like everything's working. Sorry, when I moved the camera, it was pulling on the USB outlet, and I was tugging it out of place. That's what happened there. Sorry about that. But yeah, so this is thicker than what I was doing just now, and it's more like blue. But it'll do the same sort of effect of running into the recesses, and it won't completely cover the color underneath it. I'm half tempted to like show off how it would work, like how it would look. But I don't want to throw it all out of whack, you know what I mean? Maybe if I just do it for like an arrowhead. Yeah, let's just do it for an arrowhead. I think that'll, or that arrow shaft. I think that'll show off what I'm talking about. And this is running more solid colors, so it might not even do what I want it to do in this case. So let's show off sort of what contrast looks like in comparison to the glaze that we just did. You can see how it works a lot more like a regular paint than the glaze does. But at the same time, it's still giving us a similar sort of shadow effect that we were getting. So like, you can see here, you know, once it dries, then it'll take a few seconds to dry, but once it dries, we'll be able to see sort of the color underneath it, the white and gray underneath it, still sort of peeking through. So like it's darker under here, not because the shadow is here, because we've tilted it so now it's in the light. It's darker under here because it's gray, as opposed to white up here. So that's sort of the effect. And this effect would be like, you know, it'd make this entire like skin tone a lot darker if we had done it this way. And we could have. And I don't think it would have looked like bad or anything. I just don't think it would have been quite what I was going for. You know, like I think it's a bit too like generic blue as opposed to the sort of grayish blue that I was looking for. And I think that's sort of my issue with this color in general, this ultramarine blue. It's a generic blue color. It doesn't really have like the same tone variation that other contrasts have. Like I think there's better blue contrast paint. But there weren't when I picked it up. Oh well. Yeah. And contrast paints, I've mentioned it before, are an excellent glue. Yeah, I mean, no, you're entirely right. But like, so I've got this, which is Menethol blue, and then I've got this, which is ultramarine blue. Can you tell me what the difference between these two colors is? Like, I can shake them up too, I think. Right? That's exactly what I mean. Yeah. Like, it's just, they look the same, you know? And this is, you know, yeah, and part of that might be, I think, on this bottom edge here, this like sheen that you're thinking that you might be seeing. This is actually airbrush stone that just oversprayed into the bottle. But like, looking at the top here, you know, it's like, I use Tantor more than I use Ultramarine Blue. And they're effectively the same color, and Ultramarine Blue should be, you know, what I'm using instead, because it's doing all the, like, work for me, and that it does the shade and all that. But it doesn't look that good. It looks very flat. You know, which for a contrast paint shouldn't be the case. You know, like the other contrast paints I've used, yeah, like, you know, and that's not to say that, like, you can't have blue, because I have plenty of cool looking blue. It's technically called green, but it's blue. You know, it's like a blue-green. You know, this is a bright blue. You know, this is, I don't know how much you call this blue, but it's like a very dark navy blue. You know, this is a lighter, you know, version of Tantor. This is a gray blue again, you know? This is a lighter gray blue. Like, you know, why would I ever use Ultramarine Blue? And the worst part is, if I wanted to, like, use it as a glaze, it's not a very good glaze, you know, compared to the other contrast paints that I have, because it just flattens the color out and makes it all the same Ultramarine Blue. Because, like, with red, what I do is I use either Horn or Mephiston red. Mephiston's a bit brighter. And then you use Evil Sun Scarlet, which is like a very bright red. And then you use some type of orange, usually Fire Dragon White. And then you glaze over the entire thing with, let me see if I can find it, Blood Angel Red, which is like a very dark sort of red color. And it keeps the color, like the bright, standing out color of the orange and, you know, scarlet above it, or above the darkest red. But it brings it back into the same sort of tone, you know, like a blend. But, like, Ultramarine Blue doesn't do that. It doesn't blend like, you know, Blood Angel does. It just makes it the same, you know, Ultramarine Blue color. So, definitely that's one of the paints I regret. It seems like most people don't use contrast paints, like, to paint their minis. And I'm definitely in that camp too. I don't use it to paint the mini itself. The range isn't super expansive. I don't think there's any metallics in the contrast line, which makes sense to a certain extent. But B, I don't think it looks very good, like, just being used as a paint. Like, it tends to just sort of look very flat overall. So the 2 or 3 uses I've seen most people get out of them is glaze, airbrush. Those are like the big 2. I think there's, I'm sure there's some, like, other stuff you can do with them. They're too heavily pigmented, I think, to be used as a shade wash necessarily, but, like, as a glaze, I think they can be, like, worked down too well enough. Oh, there's a few colors that people use more than others too. Black Templar, which is like the black color. Apparently, if you water that down enough, it looks better than normal oil as a shade wash. And then Apothecary White is the other one that I've been recommended, because it, like, so, and this, you know, this is sort of a problem with white as a color when being used with these minis. You paint and then you use a shade wash to add shadow and definition to your color. But with white, and with a couple of other colors like yellow and stuff, if you go over it with like Gnome Oil, which is like the generic shade color, it's black, it's, you know, it's deep lighting, it's nice deep shadow. If you go over something that's white with Gnome Oil, it'll just turn it gray. Which is not what you want usually if you're painting something white. And the way to fix this is by going back over it again with white. But apparently Apothecary White doesn't require you to do that. You can just, if you have like, assuming you have like primed in a gray or white color, if you go over something with Apothecary White, it'll give you that white color with the gray recesses and shadows that you want without needing to use shade washes. Which I think is great, because that makes, and it also replaces you needing to use white Citadel paint, like that aren't contrast, because holy shit are the white Citadel paints garbage. Do not buy the white Citadel paints. I think there's two. One is out of production, I think one is still being used. Thermite White is the one that's out of production. I think it's Corax. Corax White is the other one. They are both bad. Do not bother getting them. It's like $5 down the drain. Don't bother. They're terrible. They're super thick and goopy. They don't come out like properly. You know, they constantly, like, the pigment split all the time. Like, they're really bad colors. Don't bother. Just get white ink, like I use. Or get a different brand white. There are some different brands that do white paint that's better. Or get Apothecary White, if you really need to go Citadel. White ink's harder to control with a brush, but it makes, like, it airbrushes beautifully. In fact, inks in general airbrush beautifully. If you can use inks with an airbrush, like if the ink that you're using matches the color that you want, or you can get it to mix well enough that it'll match what color you want, I would definitely recommend doing ink, because it'll go through like butter. It's great. Through an airbrush. It's harder to control with a brush, but Apothecary White then is your answer with a brush. Or a different brand white paint. Like, there's a million problems with the Citadel white paints. I don't know why they're so bad. Nobody else seems to know why either. The reason they stopped making the Thermite White is because there were so many complaints about how thick and goopy it was and how bad it was. So they came out with Corax White, and it's almost as bad. If, like, I don't know what they were doing. Like, I can show you, actually, because I have the two pots. I bought both of them. I got suckered in like a dumbass. Because I was like, oh, I need white paint. Look at that. Fucking look at that. Like, how am I supposed to, like, it isn't dried. It's not dry. Yeah, it's disgusting. Like, I can't shake it up, because it's just a solid blob of goop. Look at that. Nothing happened. And then this is Corax White. This is the one they replaced the one I just showed off with. I just shook it up a bunch. It's not white. It's just gray. And mind you, that's the gray pigment that split from the white paint. The white paint underneath is the same blobby, goopy mess. It is a garbage color. Do not buy these paints. They are trash. You are paying, you are flushing money away if you buy either of those two colors. Don't do it. It's so bad, yeah. And like, I don't know why, because I've seen other brands do white. And it's not like it, you know, like usually before I got ink, I would just use this. This is Race Bone. It's like an off-white creamy color. It's perfect. Like, it works just fine. You know, it's nice and thick and creamy without being like goop. You know, I'd be able to put it into the dropper bottles here just fine. And it comes out just fine. It applies just fine. It's like like I said, it's like a creamy off-white, but it's very bright and not like, you know, gray or khaki. It's pretty close to white. It looks like a bone color, hence the name Race Bone. And it's fine. It's a perfectly fine color. You know, this is what I used for white beforehand. Because it works just fine. And I know they have a thinner white paint called White Scar, which is meant to be like a layer paint. I don't have White Scar, I've never used it, so I can't attest to how well it works. I haven't heard nearly as many people complain about it, so it's possible that White Scar works. If you're using White Scar, though, to make up for not having a base white color, like Thermite or Corax, just note that you'll have to apply more layers of that same color, or you'll have to do a different color underneath. For the longest time, I know actually, for like official, this is GW official paint scheme. They would like, for like the, you know, the tutorials, sorry. For their tutorials, they would show up like how they painted something, and they would actually use this gray color instead of their own white to paint white color. Because even they knew, even their own painters knew, that their white colors were unusable. Like, how am I supposed to use either of those two white colors? They're unusable. Like, I literally can't use them. If you try and mix them up, it just becomes like a grayish mess, you know? And then it flips back up again. There. Those two are the colors that I like to regret buying, 100%. Because I can't use them. Like, I can't paint anything with them. And then Contrast Ultramarine Blue is probably the other one that I like. I don't know, I shouldn't have bought. Like, I suppose it'll, you know, there'll be a time where, like, I use it and I'm like, alright, you know. Who the fuck is this? Who the fuck is you? Who is you, and why should I not ban your ass? This looks like a fucking bot. How do I ban his ass? How do I ban his ass? Should be able to. Yeah, it's definitely a bot. Oh, ban. There we go. Yeet. Ban him. He's out of here. Get him out of here. Yeah. Alright. Easy, lads. Get that shit out of here. I don't know people fucking advertising here. Like, I don't know. You can kind of see it. It's dried now. Like, you can see the raised bit here of this arrow shaft. It's like a blade. Sort of looking thing. You can see how, like, the raised bits of it are sort of like, if it doesn't focus it, or like a brighter blue, like a slightly lighter blue. I don't think it's enough to, like, justify it, you know, to justify using it. And obviously it's like a small, you know, thing that, it's a small, effect, small arrow. But like, if I wanted to get that effect, I could just use, I mean, you know, if I wanted to get that effect but better, I would just use Menethol Blade and highlight, like, by hand, which would take more time, for sure, but like, I mean, you saw how much effort it took just to paint that, like, a little bit. I can just paint it a little bit, and it looks okay, it's just that, like, it looks flat in comparison to, like, what you can get, with just a little bit more effort. It's just, you know, personal preference type of thing. I have, the other third thing, I remember now, the other third thing that contrast paints are, like, used for often is for people back painting. So say you've got, like, a whole army of, like, tyranny, you know? Because GW hates you and, you know, you decided to buy the 10-year-old model, instead of Space Marine, like, you know, like they want you to buy, you fucking pleb. Anyway, say you got tyranny. The idea is that you have, like, 3 contrast paints. You know, you just take, like, a contrast purple paint and a contrast, you know, pink paint and a contrast, you know, whatever. It doesn't really matter. You got, you know, your 3 contrast paints, and you just paint, like, your entire army just using those 3 paints, because it makes the process super easy and super quick. So, like, if you don't care that much about, like, having them painted well, and you just want to, like, make sure that they're able to be played on a table and look like, not just look like pieces of gray plastic, you know, contrast paint I would suggest. They're more expensive than regular paint, but they take the, like, time and work out of painting, for sure. Makes it a lot easier, you know, and I would say, like, the idea is that, like, you get, so, like, say you get contrast ultimately. If I wanted to get the same effect that this gives, but better, I would use Menethol Blue, Altdorf Guard Blue, and either Drakenhof Nightshade or normal shade. Drakenhof is a blue shade. It's what we used actually for the skin tone. And it looked better than if I just used Ultramarine Blue. But that's 3 different paints that I've got to buy to get the same effect that I can get, I mean, not a good looking effect for just one paint. That, you know, a third of the cost. So that's kind of like the justification for buying contrast paint. If you're not that interested in, like, the painting process, and you just want to have an army be painted, contrast paints are probably your option. If you're looking for good paint to use through an airbrush, contrast paints are perfectly thin enough to go right through, and yet still thick enough to have like an actual paint show up. If you want skin tone done easily, I'll admit I use contrast paints for skin tone, because I think they actually tend to look really, really good. I showed them off a while ago now. Like I think back in January before I moved into here. I was showing off like what the skin tone contrast paint looked like. And I think they actually turned out pretty well. They're a bit on the dark side if you're not using a white primer or like a white undercoat. And even some of them with a white undercoat can be like, oh, just like black, like they're just black people. It's just a black skin tone. Black in like the skin tone, like the race, not like the color. But yeah, so I do think that it's worth it to pick up the skin tone contrast paint if you know you're going to be painting a lot of those and you like don't like painting them, because I'm not a huge fan of it. I think that using Citadel's like, because like the skin tone for like white, like Caucasian skin tone is Bugman's Glow, Light One Flesh Shade, and then Cadian Flesh Tone with a highlight, like a small highlight of Kislev Flesh. In the frame. And, you know, so the way this works is like you use this for the skin, like everything in the skin get put on there. And then put this on. And this will sink into all the recesses. And then every place that's not a recessed area, you put Cadian over. And this is like your Caucasian skin tone. And then anything that's like highlighted, like light is hitting it, you want to use Kislev Flesh. That's 4 paints to get a skin tone effect that's frankly not that great. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just that like it's a Caucasian skin tone, or it's kind of boring. But like, you know what? You prime your mini white, and let's see if I can find it. Prime your mini white. Take Dorman Flesh, put it over there. Congrats, you got a Caucasian person. That's it, that's all you need. It's that simple. And it looks pretty good. You want to go black person? You need 4 colors to do black skin tone. 3 of them are different colors, by the way. Or at least 2 of them are. I only have 1 of them. I don't have the like base skin tone for black people. And they only made it like 3 years ago. Yeah, you want to go with like a black skin tone? Here's one. This is probably your darkest. Here's a decently dark one. First off, use any of these 3 on a undercoat that's not like white. Like say you don't prime it in white and you prime it in gray like I do. And use any of those 3 colors and it'll be 3 different shades of dark skin tone. Like human looking skin tone. On white, this will get you a black skin tone. This will get you a more like Mediterranean looking skin tone, like a tannish color. And like we said, white. And that's the same amount of paint that I bought for one skin tone. And with this, I can make at least 3. With just, depending on the undercoat that I'm using. So absolutely, get yourself the Citadel colored skin tone. And there's a couple of others. There's a couple of more like Asian looking one-ish. And then I think there's another white looking one, maybe. It's like an even lighter skin tone. It's supposed to be like a Scandinavian, like bright white, northern barbarian type skin tone. But anyway, absolutely get your hands on those for a skin tone. Definitely worth it. Other than that, I don't know if you need contrast paints unless you're bash painting. Using them as glazes or airbrushing with them. And then, yeah. So, four uses for them. Skin tones, bash painting, airbrushing, glazing. I use them for everything but bash painting. Mostly because when I bash paint, I don't bash paint things that are, that happen to be like the contrast paint that I've got, A lot of the stuff that I've bash painted are metallic, and there aren't metallic contrast paint, so I have to use something different. I definitely use the airbrush though, because it's practically cheating to use an airbrush for bash painting. Makes it so much easier. Yeah. There's a lot of different painting methods, and most of them are just about getting the best look for the least amount of work. Because you can put a lot of work into it. Yeah, take dry brushing. These models would actually be great for dry brushing. Dry brushing is going to take a Funko, it doesn't matter what kind of brush it is. As long as it's decently messy, though I know they make dry brushing. This is a Citadel dry brush. Look at that tip. Focus on it, please. Focus, point on the. Come on, you can do it. Anyway, you can see the silhouette, I imagine. It's shit. This is a messy tip, but that's good. You want that for dry brushing. You don't want a thin, razor tip. So you take a color. Doesn't really matter what color, as long as it's paint. And you take it, apply it to the tip, and then you go over to a paper towel or whatever you've got to dry off your brushes. And you just rub it into that, and get as much of the paint off of the brush as you can. This may sound counterintuitive. I thought you want the paint, that's why you put the paint on the paintbrush. But no, we want as little paint on this brush as we can get. And then we just go over the model with the brush, and we just kind of across it, and maybe go in the direction of the ridges or whatever, And the point is that, the brush is only contacting the highest point of the model for the most amount of time, and it's got just enough paint on the brush tips that paint will stick to whatever is being brushed upon. So you just sort of brush it like this, and you can see how there's these little ridges on the guy's skin. If I were really careful with it and trying carefully, I could dry brush so that just those ridges were getting covered in that paint color. Obviously I wouldn't want to do it for something like this where I've already painted over it, but it's super useful. makes for great highlighting, super fast. Highlighting when like just like all the little like raised areas, you take a brighter color than what the rest of it's painted, and you just go over it so that like it's all light hitting it, highlight. You get the idea. Opposite of shadows. This makes it super easy. You just go over it, and it's done. It does it for you. Like, it makes it so easy. And you can do that for everything. Oh yeah. Yep. For scale, I was just gonna say, I think I've used it for the dragons that I've done. Scale, yep, it's often the poor man's OSL. OSL, by the way, is object source light. So say you want to like make these, like whatever in his hand here, glowing. What you want then is that it's like glowing across the arm and onto his face, subtly. There's two ways of doing that. One is with the dry brush, where you take it and you dry brush over it, and all the raised areas are... I think I saw that too. It's pretty cool looking. Maybe you just go right all over all the raised areas, you know, that are in the same like vicinity of where the light's going down onto it. And that's how you do that. You can do it with fire, you can do it with like glowing magic effects, you know, anything really. I've done it with, I had like a dude carrying a torch, and I just went over his like face and stuff with that color. The other way to do it is with an airbrush. And you kind of do need an airbrush to do it. Luckily, the effect doesn't change that much between dry brushing and airbrushing. With airbrushing, the effect is more smooth and well blended. Like you can stack multiple colors on top of it, and you can like change, you know, what colors go the farthest. So like the darkest colors would go the farthest. That's like the dimmest light, and then get the brighter, you know, a little bit brighter, and then a little bit brighter, and then the brightest like right next to it. And that's what I did with the angel guy's wings, the Stormcast wings. That's what I was doing with the airbrush there. I was like letting it intentionally spray into the body, and like going over parts of the body where it was like closest to it, to make it look like the wings were shining onto the body, you know, like glowing over the body. So yeah, that's sort of the, like that's what you can do with, you know, dry brushing. Like you mentioned with scale, they're great for scale. They're great for fur. If you got like a fur cloak, just go right over it and it'll look great. What else would it look good on? Any kind of bumps and ridges. Oh, you could probably get away with doing like chainmail. Like if there's like a, you know, a chainmail like kilt or something, or not a kilt, like a chainmail set of armor over a guy, and you wanted to like really quickly just go over it with a dry brush, and like a brighter silver color, that would probably work. That's the other thing with dry brushing. You can do it with metallic. You know, you're not limited to just basic color. The only thing you really can't dry brush with is contrast paints and shade washes. So they're just too liquidy. Like it's too liquidy, you wouldn't really get the effect that you're looking for. That's all. Yeah, like I said, it makes highlighting fucking easy. Yeah. I don't know. The dry brushing can also be like, oh, another thing I've seen people do is if they're like an old model that was painted, and you don't want to like change the paint scheme entirely, but you want to like touch it up a bit, using a dry brushing to sort of just add the highlight back in a little bit. So like faded paint or whatever can actually look really nice. Oh, mine absolutely did. But like, that's because I was just applying paint to it. I didn't really know what I was doing. I hadn't really watched any videos. I just grabbed some paint and I took a mini that like represented my brother's bard. I think I have it somewhere. I don't know if I have it here or if I have it, if it maybe left in my parents' house. My brother might have it actually. But yeah, like I didn't know how skin tone, how to do skin tones, how to do, I don't even think I did a shade wash on it. But really, but then like I watched the video, and I don't remember how, like, who it was from or whatever the, which video was specifically. But like they said, you just get like 5 paints from Citadel and make sure 1 is a wash, and make sure 1 is some kind of like ground texture thing. I don't know that you need to get that second one, that like texture ground thing. You can do that, or you can ignore that, or whatever. You don't need that. And then they will like get a skin tone color, like Cadian flesh tone, or any skin tone that you like, that like sticks out to you. Get like a primary. I think I got raw flesh. And I was just using this as like not the skin tone, the like cloth color that I was doing. And then then I think they said just like get a metallic color if you're gonna do anything metal. And then just get like a small brush, and you can pretty much just like bang out a mini and just those. Raw flesh. No, it's raw flesh because it works. Makes sense. But yeah, I mean, really, that's all you need. And actually, there are plenty of like get started painting kits that I know GW does a few. At least one for both 40K and Age of Sigmar. I think Age of Sigmar has 2. One is a Nighthawk, and it's just like a couple of ghosts mini that you can like put together without needing glue or anything. And then like a black or dark brown color, a blue and a gray, a shade tone, or like a shade wash, and I think that's put in like a metal color, and that's like it. That's all it takes. And it's like, yeah. And then the other one, I think I've gotten this one, is Sequiturs, and it comes with Rakar's flesh, which is like this. I actually really like this color, so I got 2 in 1 large dropper bottle. It comes with Abaddon Black, Cantor Blue, Retributor Armor Gold, and Raycorn Flesh Shade. And these 5 colors is really all you need to like paint a Sequitur. which is like the Stormcast guy. They're just regular like Stormcast looking dudes, with like maces instead of hammers. They're pretty cool. I like them. I run them in my army sometimes. But like, you just get 3 models. They're easy to put together. You just paint them. They're pretty easy to paint. Especially the Stormcast. And then I know 40K has a couple of them. I know they just put out a Death Guard one. And I want to say that that's got 2 green color? Or like a green color, a brown color, a pink color. They always come with a shade wash. And then something else. I know there's also a Necron one. That comes with a metal color, a green color, like a bright green. Agrax Earthshade, which is an excellent shade wash. And a couple of other colors. Usually they'll come with 5 colors. 4 like paint. One of those 4 is going to be metallic. And then the other 4 will be like related to the color scheme of that, faction or whatever. And then the 5th color will be a wash. Again, related to the color of that faction. Those are really all you need to like get started painting. Most of them will come with like a tutorial. They'll come with a mini to paint. The only thing they don't come with is they expect you to prime them yourself. You would have to do that yourself. Luckily, you can get like a spray bottle or like a spray can of any color you want pretty easily for a couple of bucks. At like a Walmart or whatever. So that's like the only thing. And if you live up north like I do, it's sometimes hard to play outside, just because it's like light or cold or whatever. But that's, unrelated in general. Yeah. I think I was mentioning the other night, I vaguely remember, let me see if I can find it. Well, what you don't want is you don't want it to be humid out. And you don't want it to be cold out. Because if it's cold and it's humid out, that means that your paint freezes and needs a lot of time to, or needs a lot of space to reach the model without like covering it. Yeah. And it's just real bad for, me and the boys up north. Maybe it's not out yet. Maybe it's in releases. No, wait. No, that's all the Sunny stuff. Of course that is. Maybe. Why am I on the roll? Here we go. Okay, damn, they must not be out yet. I'm gonna look them out, look them up. Because they actually look great. What am I gonna do? I just sent it in the Discord for you. I know, I mean, they look amazing. Yeah. Cause like the issue sort of with Seraphon, the Lizard Man, the Seraphon, as they're now called, is that like their models are, they're not like ancient, but they're old. You know, none of them got like revamped in any way, you know, with the beginning of Age of Sigmar. And they're pretty much all the old models that they used back in Warhammer Fantasy. Yeah. So like this squad, you know, is new. It's an entirely new kit. If you like look up the older, or if you just look up like the Seraphon boxes and stuff, and like what the models look like on their website, it is some are better than others. The monsters are alright, like the Carnosaurs and the Bastiladons and all that. They look fine. The Slan looks fine. I think Lord Croak did get a remodel with the End Time. But yeah, like the Cold Run Riders I know look terrible. The Saurus Guard and Saurus Warriors are kind of showing their age. The Skinks look kind of basic looking. Chameleon Skinks again look basic looking. The like Salamanders look pretty bad. And it's an issue. It's unlikely that they'll be getting any like big reworks of models in anytime soon. So that would be like a consideration to make for like if you were to get into the game with them. I mean, obviously the way to fix that, the way to ignore that is you just play all the big monsters, all the big like dinosaurs and flan, so you don't have to worry about the older models. And you can. It's actually a pretty decent army. Skaven also suffers from that problem. There have been a couple of new Skaven models, but not too many. And then like stuff like the Clan Ashen runners or whatever, the like ninja ones, they look terrible. I think there's actually a few models that are still in metal. True. For reference, I think they stopped using metal around the turn of the millennium. So that kind of gives you an idea of how old they are. Yeah. And again, it's sort of unfortunate. What else? Cities also sort of suffer from that issue, but not quite as bad. They did get, like, the Empire stuff got a bunch of new stuff with the End Time happening, and they got like all the big war machines and some new models and stuff. I think part of the reason why Britannia got like is because GW didn't want to have to revamp their model. Because I know their old models were metal. And again, they stopped using metal like in 2000.
And you can sit around and talk about that all you want.
Yeah, I mean,
But until it is
I know.
actually reality, it doesn't count.
Yeah, the Empire War Machines look decent. The Dark Elf stuff looked pretty decent. The High Elf stuff, a lot of that didn't go through. It like didn't come through with the Order stuff. Lion Rangers are playable, but there's only 2 models for Lion Ranger, and both of them are in metal. I think the only thing that's like really playable in Heil is that like from the old Heil is Phoenix Guard and the Phoenixes.
You know,
And like
I
the
mean,
Lord
when
on
I was
Phoenix.
younger, I don't know how many songs I had.
Those are pretty much it.
but never
The
quite
Lord on
finished
Phoenix
and
comes
never
with the Phoenix
finished
set.
recording or
So,
never even started recording. And no one knows
back
that
when
those songs
AOS
existed.
initially released, though,
So
you
it
could
kinda
play like
doesn't
Dragon
count
Knight
until you finish it
and Dragon
and
Rider
put it out
for
to the world.
Heil,
I'm not saying put crap
as
out
well
into
as
the
like
world, but there
the
comes a time when
Sky Chariot.
finishing and moving on, I think, is
stuff.
vital. Otherwise, you're just
I
holding on
think
to all of these
what's going to end up happening
works.
is that a lot of that old High Elf stuff is going to
And I
be
think if you wanna
revamped
grow
into the
as any
Lumineth.
sort
And
of
actually, I
universe,
know that's going to happen.
you need to
Because we've
finish
already seen it
things.
happen for the Lore Masters and Sword Masters. Both of them have models that are going to be produced for Lumineth. We've seen a couple of them. And then they also have like a new Bull Thrower model. So that's probably what's happening with the High Elf. Wood Elves got a lot of new stuff. Like the new stuff that they got. Luminath are so they're created like their lore that they're created by Tyrion and
Cliche
Teclis.
of art is
So
not
yeah, they're
finished,
basically
it's
just the High
abandoned.
Elves,
Yes,
but
it
more
can
High
always
Elves.
be better.
Yeah.
But you have to
Well, that's
finish and you have to
Sylvaneth.
put it out.
I'm talking about the Wood Elves themselves.
Otherwise, you're just the guy talking about your art. You're not the guy.
So I think
doing
part of the
it.
Wood Elf line got like
You get
revamped for
better
like
by
the end
doing it,
time.
finishing it, learning from that
And most of the
process,
stuff that I
moving
think
on to
got
the next thing.
revamped made it through into Age of Sigmar. The stuff that did not isn't. So like Glade Guard for Wood Elves is no longer a thing. They don't make Glade Guard. They are now, yeah. The Wood Elves are called the Wanderers, and the Sylvaneth are the Tree People. Yeah, it sucks. If it does make you feel better, the Handmaidens of Alaria, the chicks with the magic bows, are Wood Elf models now. So you can play with like accounts as Glade Guard, you know, they look kind of like it, that kind of thing. But yeah. But yeah, so the lore is that Alaria created the Sylvaneth. Like she just created them using like soul pods or whatever. And I want to say she took like the spirits and stuff of ancient. Cause like Draika, like you mentioned, is a character in AOS. She's the lady in the honeycomb power armor that looks frankly fucking amazing. So she created the Sylvaneth, but the Wood Elves also survived. Some of them survived from the previous world. So they're wandering about doing their own thing. And they were working with Alaria. But when Chaos showed up and started wrecking shit, the Wood Elves, like the elves themselves, left Alaria and the Sylvaneth to defend themselves. And they left to Azir, because Sigmar sounded the horns and was like, everybody get to Azir, and then he closed the gate and didn't let anybody in or out. The Wood Elves, the Sylvaneth see it as the Wood Elves abandoning Alariel. I mean, the Wood Elves would have been fucked if they had stayed. Still, frankly, I agree with them leaving. That's just my personal opinion. So, the Wood Elves and the Tree People actually don't like each other that much. And the Tree People see the Wood Elves as like traitors, and the Wood Elves are like, bruh, why are you ostracizing me? Actually, it's interesting, because, like, you know, everybody, like, initial perception is that, like, oh, the Wood Elves, I mean, yeah, but, like, they don't like each other. Or at least, if the Wood Elves do like the Tree People, it's a one-way relationship. The Tree People do not like them back. Yeah. The Sylvaneth are kind of interesting and sort of overlooked. They played a big part at the beginning of AOS. They haven't really done much with the Soul Wars expansion, much with Nagash's whole deal and like death. So it's kind of a shame that they've sort of fallen to the wayside. The big players right now, I think, are big players are Daughters of Cain. Chaos is ascending back into the spotlight as like the main bad. The Stormcast has sort of fallen off. They're not like, they're still the poster boys, but they're not like pushed as heavily as the Space Marines are in 40k, you know what I mean? And then the other big player, Idoneth are a big player at the moment. And then Be'lakor is probably going to be one of the biggest players. Oh, I completely forgot. Also, Gordrak, the prophet of Gork and Mork. Not the prophet, the herald of Gork and Mork, is leading a gigantic law of like basically all of the destruction faction to bust open one of the realm gates. And I don't know which realm gate it to. Yeah, man, he's cunning and brutal. Yeah, he's like the orc leader. The biggest and toughest and strongest and cunningest orc out there. He's pretty cool. He's sort of like the Grimgor of AOS without actually being Grimgor. Yeah. Definitely interesting. I don't know all that much about what's going on with destruction. I just know that they're on the war map. They're on the warpath. Oh, and then the biggest thing that's happened. Warzag is not around as like a playable character. A lot of these like old faction leaders have sort of like ascended to become like deific creatures to like Starsnick, the old Night Goblin guy, has like it's implied that he's sort of become the bad moon that the Night Goblin or the glowing spike geese worship now. And same thing with who's that one beast man? Malagai? I think it's Malagai. Yeah. But yeah, like most named characters, unless they like became a god, aren't still around. Unless they became a god or were brought back by a god. Yeah. Yeah, beastmen. I feel you. They're bad on tabletop too. They're not bad. It's just they're not great in tabletop. They don't have like I don't know. I think their biggest strength is that they can ally themselves into any chaos army without having to like make use of the allyship rules. So like you can just put like the best parts of a you can put a minibus in a corn army. It's basically what I'm saying. You know where you got like several squads of minotaurs surrounded by a doom bowl? You can just put that into a corn army. And like it's perfectly acceptable. It might actually be pretty good too. And that's like the best part of Beastmen. But at the moment they're just not like yeah. They don't do a ton of damage. They're all squishy. They're pretty low leadership, so they often run away. Their spells are okay. The endless spells are really good. They're like big. A lot of factions have like a big like. They are very fast. Yeah. They're pretty quick. They're pretty mobile. I think their biggest strength is just that they have like really high rend, which is like armor penetration, and that can make them good. But there's some factions they'll just get bodied by, because some factions don't care what your rend is; they'll just ignore it, or they have invulnerable save where they just roll that and it's unaffected by your rend. I don't know. They're okay. It's hard to play them effectively. They're like the beastmen don't have armor unless you're talking about like. Oh, sorry. Armor penetration. So it's kind of hard to explain. So the way like combat works in Warhammer, and this is Warhammer. This is 40k and Age of Sigmar. You roll the attack, and this is like to see if it hits. And usually your character will have that listed on their like sheet, and then you roll again if you succeed on that hit to see if you wound, and that's a different number usually, and sometimes it's affected by them, sometimes it's 40k is affected by some other numbers. But Age of Sigmar has been simplified, so you don't have to worry about that. And then they roll to see if they save against the wound. And that is where the rend comes in. That's where the armor penetration comes in, because a lot of weapons will have like a -1 or minus 0 AP. And this basically means that like if they have a -1, or if you have a -1 and when they roll the save, they subtract 1 from whatever they get. So say you've got a save of 4+, you've got to get at least a 4 to not take the damage. If they've got a rend of -1, it effectively means you need to get a 5 up to not take the damage. That's the way that works in Warhammer. And it's fairly easy to get the hang of it. It actually moves fairly smoothly once you like figure out what you're doing. And it's hard to like explain it without showing it exactly. Yeah. Oh, speaking of Beasts of Chaos, these guys are playable in Beasts of Chaos. They're okay. These guys are super fast, and they move 16 inches. Which is fucking absurd. For like, oh yeah, I mean they look really cool, yeah. For reference, most like units move about 4 or 5 inches. These guys just double that. Sorry, triple that. They dip around the field, and they have bows. There's and the kit, you know, the box that this came in, makes it so you can also build, instead of with bows, you can build like spears and halberds. Or like, they look like spears. I don't remember what they were exactly. But these are like the better version, just because like the bow, the ranged attack. Usually, yes. So the big thing with charging, that you always attack first when you charge. So like say you charge into somebody, you attack first no matter what. And then most things, like most units or whatever that want to charge in, will give you an incentive to do so. Like, you add an extra attack if you charge, or you get a +1 to your hit if you charge. Yeah. And going to 40k, playing Khorne armies in 40k, your entire army attacks an extra time if they charge. And this is where you start getting fucking bonkers in 40k with Khorne. And Khorne is what I play in 40k. I play Chaos, Space Marine, Khorne. So you charge in, you get an extra attack on top of your 5 as Berserkers. If you got a Chain Sword, that's another attack. Trying to remember what the math on this was. Let me actually, because I know I have the thing pulled up for Khorne. Khorne Berserkers. And I should clarify, attack is per model. So if you've got 10 Berserkers, and you've got 6 attacks on each Berserker, and I should clarify, all models that are touching the bases are touching the bases of an enemy. So if you've got, like, say, 10 Berserkers, and let's say you're charging, like, a big tank or something, and you can get all of those Berserkers around that tank and, like, touching the bases, each of them is... Let's see if I can find their sheet 2. To show off just how fucking crazy they get. Come on. I mean, it gets fucking nuts after a point. So, if you got a Chain Sword, you attack an extra time. You already attack 2 times for each, Berserker. If you charge, you attack an extra time for 4 attacks. If you roll a 6, against an Imperium player, like any Imperium army, so Imperial Guard, Space Marines, whatever. On any of those rolls, if you roll a 6, you get an extra attack, or an extra hit. It gets pretty crazy after a while. And then, to top all of that off, they fight a second time, meaning they get to do all of, oh yeah, Dex, as long as it's a different thing that's giving you the same buff, like a different name. Oh, no, so the way it works is, so say you roll a 6 on your hit roll, that counts for a second hit. So then when you go to your wound rolls, you roll an additional one. But if you roll multiple 6s, all of those count for it. So those will all give you extra attacks. Yes, it's an extra hit, sorry. Yeah. But then the thing is they get to fight twice. And fighting is just melee combat. So they do all of that again. And the buffs still apply. The point is, like, if you really are lucky and you, like, play your cards right with just Khorne Berserkers, you can get, like, a single model hitting 20 times. Like, rolling 20 dice per model. Which is fucking bonkers. Because you're almost guaranteed to hit something at that point, you know? Like, it's really hard to not hit with that many dice. Yeah. And then on top of that, they hit really well anyways. You know, they hit on 3-ups, which means if you roll a 3 or higher, you hit. And if you know dice math, a 3 or higher in a 1 out of 6 chance is actually over 50%. So you're hitting over half the time. A 4-up would be 50%. So yeah, absolutely nutty amount of attacks. Like I said, Age of Sigmar simplifies it a bit. There isn't anything that can get quite that bonkers in Age of Sigmar yet. And the thing with this rolling on 6s means you hit the second time is, that is referred to as exploding hit. Because you hit and then it sort of blooms into more damage. It explodes into more damage. Very good. Most armies will have some way of doing that. Chaos Space Marines is interesting in that, like, basically their entire army gets to do that again, specifically against Imperium players, which is interesting, but alright. I don't know if these Angors do it, to be honest, because I haven't really looked at them that hard. I don't intend on actually ever playing them. It is. It's like something that's only really able to be done with the system that they've got for damage. And like most damage in both games is like 1 damage. Like per hit, you only end up doing like 1. It's called wound, but it's 1 damage. It's just that most models only have 1 hit point, or maybe 2, and then like leaders will have more. So like, if you get something that does like 2 damage on a, wound, and you like surround an enemy leader or something with that unit, they can eviscerate them really quickly. Because even if you've got like 8 health, if 4 of them go through, that's 8 damage and you're dead. Like somebody mentioned this, I don't remember who it was, but like, you know, as cool as your characters, as cool as like all these named characters are, like once the game starts, they die quick enough anyway. It's really hard to have like unkillable characters. And I think there's and there's a couple of armies that come close. Death Guard. Yeah, no, for sure, no. Death Guard and 40k are absurdly tanky. Nurgle and Age of Sigmar is pretty tanky. Ostearch Bone Reapers in Age of Sigmar is pretty tanky. It used to be even tankier. But then they got nerfed, unfortunately. These tanks are, they are, you can actually, so, there's 2 variants for the Cities of Sigmar. You can play a Steam Tank with Commander, which is like your leader, and if you make him your general, it makes Steam Tank without a commander battle line. And battle line means like you have to have a certain number of battle line units for this army to be playable in like a competitive, space. So if he's your general, you have to, in a 2,000 point game, you have to have 3 battle line units. Each Steam Tank is their own unit, and they make up your battle line. And I want to say Steam Tanks have 12 wounds, and I think they bracket. Bracketing is a thing that big monsters get usually. 12 wounds is getting up there. I think the tanky is the most wounds in either game is the Mega Gargan. And I think they sit on 30 wounds. Which makes them fucking insane. Incredibly hard to kill. But the thing with that army is that the army is called Sons of Bahamut. It's giant. It's all giant. Oops, all giant. The thing with that army is that you only have 7 guys. So you kind of need them to be extremely tough. There's no screening unit. There's no shaft. It's just those 7 big guys. It's real easy to just unload everything onto one of them. And yeah, well, they get something. They do get help with that, in that if they're on the objective, they count as more models. Because the thing with capturing objectives is that if you have more models on near the objective, and I think it's usually 6 inches, but sometimes it's 3. If you have more models within 6 inches of the objective, you have control of the objective. Unless the battle plan says otherwise. So usually, I want to say Mega Gargant count for 20 models. So if they're on an objective, they count as 20 guys being on that objective. Which means that they don't have that hard of a problem with capturing objectives. Yeah. And then one of their leaders, oh my god. one of their leaders has the ability to, and I think this costs command points, which is like the resource in the game. They have the ability to kick an objective across the map. So, like, no other army, nobody else in the game gets to do this, by the way. This is completely unique to them. Say you don't like where that objective is. You get this guy over to it, and then you have him just fucking yeet it to a place that's more advantageous for you. So that way you don't have to maneuver to the point. You just have to maneuver the point towards you. It's great. It's hysterical. I've never seen it in action because nobody played this army because it costs like $300 just to get a decent army. Yeah, basically, yeah. Move it somewhere. Yeah, it's great. Yeah. It is probably one of the least played armies out there just because, like, it costs so much to get it. Because they're big models and they're expensive models. Even if you only have like 7 models, it's expensive to get, you know. Like 2 of those, like 2 of the smaller giants are $100 each. Or not $100. No, $100 to get 2 of them, yeah. And then it's like another $125 to get the really big one. Just one of the really big ones. And you need, because of the way battle lines work, if you want a 2,000 point army, you need 6 of those smaller giants. Which means you need 3 kits, each of them $100. You're spending $300 just to be able to play a 2,000 point, you know, army. It's rough. It makes it really hard to, like, get into that army unless you're rich as fuck. Or unless you own a game store, like a hobby shop or whatever, like a local game store. And then you can probably buy that army. And for, like, being able to, you know, show it off and stuff, like that kind of thing. Luckily, there's a way to play this army, by proxy. This won't be legal for a tournament, so you won't be able to, like, bring this to a tournament, but there's plenty of giant, like, models out there made by other companies that are, like, a fraction of the price. D&D, for example, they have their own model line. The giants are about as big as the smaller giants. Right, yeah. They have a giant for each of the giant types. I think stone giants, Fomorians, and hill giants will look closest to the Warhammer giants. And I think you can get each of those models for like $15. Like I said, like a fraction of the price. Unfortunately, I don't know that there's that many like proxies for the really big ones, because the really big ones are like 8 inches tall. They're massive. Yeah. Speaking of massive, speaking of centerpiece models, there's plenty of them. Of varying quality. Archaon's one of the good ones, I think. Just because of how fucking epic it looks. The Celestin Prime is actually smaller than I thought he'd be. I don't know, it looks a little bit smaller. Nagash is massive. and fully painted, it looks like an absolute monster. L'Oreal has her own model, by the way. It's like her with giant wings standing on top of a massive stag beetle. It's actually pretty cool looking. It's a shame that she, that like L'Oreal herself is actually kind of bad on the tabletop. Like she just doesn't do much. Teclis has a tabletop model now. That came out with the first wave of Lumineth. I'm gonna be real, it looked kind of goofy. Just like posing wise, it looked kind of dumb. But maybe that's just me. I am one of the few people who think that the Lumineth hat looks fine. Tyrion does not have a model yet. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. He's like T-posing and like there's like a sphinx underneath him. It's silly looking. But yeah, like I don't know. There's just a lot of like weird, silly things going on in it. Luckily, the Lumineth do have a different centerpiece model, and it's the big like mountain, bull-looking thing. There's two variants of it. One with a big giant hammer, and one with two hammers. But it looks really cool. Let's see. Flesh Eater, of course, has the Royal Zombie Dragon, or Royal Terror Guy. I think it's Royal. It's Abhorrent Ghoul King on Royal Terror Geist. Fuck me, I hate British people. I hate the Brits. Yeah, it looks pretty cool. I don't know. Flesh Eater Court, I'm not a huge fan of the models. I love the lore, but the models, I could do without them, frankly. What else is centerpiece model? Each of the Chaos each of the Chaos Gods had their like greater demon. I think the corn ones look good, but maybe that's just because I'm a corn fanboy. These Lanesh ones look really good. They all look good, frankly. I mean, I don't know why I'm saying that. They all look good. They're all real nice. Trying to think of other... Fire Slayers don't really have one. No, they do have the Magma Droth. It's like a big fire lizard dragon thing. I don't know. It looked kind of generic, sort of like the rest of the Fire Slayers, in my opinion. The Dreadthorian is playable for lizard men. However, it is a Forge World model. It's like $400. It doesn't come with a base, so you'd have to like make one yourself or something. And it's like 500 points, which is a quarter of your army if you're playing a 2,000 point game. But hey, if you wanna drop the, fucking Shungus boy that is the Dreadthorian down on a table and watch your opponent just cry in abject horror. Go ahead. Worth, frankly. Worth it. Oh yeah, well, so that's what Forge World does. Forge World is like a sister company to Games Workshop. They make models for Warhammer 40k and Age of Sigmar, and usually their thing is like specialized stuff. And the other big thing that they do is like big models. So the like really massive like Titans that you see, those are Forge World. The big like airships and stuff that you see, like I think the Tau have like this massive like stealth jet looking thing. That's Forge World. The Dreadthorian is Forge World. I know there's a bunch of Tyranid stuff that's Forge World. There's a couple of issues. One, they come in resin, not plastic, which means that they're more fragile. They break a bit easier. Two, they're way more expensive. Like, you think GW pricing is fucking expensive? Forge will blow that shit out of the fucking water. Like, they're so expensive. I just said, like, the Dreadthorian's like $300 just for that one model. Like, that's pretty standard pricing for, like, Forge World stuff. And they're not always, like, supported in-game, in the games that they're meant for, necessarily. So, like, Age of Sigmar's Forge World stuff, usually the rules come with the Forge World model. They don't put the rules into, like, their books. The other thing that Forge World does, they do the Chaos Wars. You can't play Chaos Wars in Age of Sigmar. They're not super well supported, and they're not that great. But you can play them. If you like, you just fucking love the Chaos Wars. But personally, I would wait for a Chaos Wars release. Because that's more likely than them ever being good. That's the most likely way of them ever being good. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough to say. The other big thing that they sometimes do is they'll do, like, bear bits. So if you, like, say you, like Stormcast, but you don't like the helmet. Which is fair. I want to say Forge World is the company that does, like, Stormcast helmet, like, head. That are, like, just human heads that are fit for Stormcast bodies. So, if you don't like the helmet, you can get those heads instead. And I want to say they come in, like, packs of 10 or whatever. And I would recommend that to anybody that, like, likes the look of Stormcast but kind of hates the goofy looking helmet. Because the helmets are the helmets aren't for everybody. If you're a fan of Balthazar Gelt, our boy Gelt, you might like him, but they're not for everybody. They're like these, expressionless masks that go over the, they all look the same. I get it. But they do make heads for Stormcast. There's a couple of kits that come with their own head. Usually that'll be later. The Knight Incantor. Yeah, the Knight Incantor comes with a it has a human head. The Lord Ordinator, both variants have human head. The Sequitur Prime from the Start Painting Kit that I mentioned way earlier can either do the helmet or a human head. Trying to think what else. A few of the named characters have, their faces instead of the helmet. Which makes sense, they're named characters, you don't want to cover it up. That's kind of it. That's kind of all I can think of at the top of my head. So yeah, like it and because they come in like batches of 10, you would get like a box of 10 Liberators, which are the standard foot soldiers, and then you buy the 10 head, and you just put the head onto the bodies instead of using the helmet. And that can give you some more like visual variety for your characters. And then you can also, if you're a big brain, smart boy like me, I haven't actually done this, but you can get those Stormcast heads, and you can get male and female variants, and like, you can get both, you can get male or you can get female. You get the female Stormcast head, and you put them on your Space Marines, and you fucking make the female Space Marine. Easy. Fucking got them. Shut BTFO. I don't know why that's still like... I've seen that. There's like an actual debate amongst some like Warhammer 40k fan. And it's usually... I don't know if this is like just a me thing or if this is like an actual thing. I think the people... Yeah, well, I mean, I agree. Like, who gives a fuck? But like... obviously it's not all the people who just are into the lore and like, they don't play the game or paint models or anything like that. But I feel like it's the people who are just into the lore and don't like play the game, they don't paint models, they just talk about the lore, they read the lore, they listen to the lore YouTubers. I feel like they are the shuttier version, or like the shuttier fans of 40k. You know what I mean? Like the people who play the game itself usually aren't too bad. Most of them. There's still obviously there's a lot of that guys. But like they're usually friendly. They're usually always looking for people to join them playing, like, yeah, the same thing with Star Wars, you see the people who are like obsessed with the lore, they can like name off all the Mandalorian battles from like the Old Republic, that they like read in an encyclopedia one time, and like, they're also the ones who care the most about like the new sequels and how they totally can't do that with Force powers because that's not how the Force works. And like, who cares, dude? The Force was never that well defined. Like, at least not in the canon movies, It was never that well defined. It's magic, it's space magic. You can just do whatever with it. But like, these people will get super angry. Yeah, there's issues with the sequel, but it doesn't have anything to do with the lore, because the lore isn't that big of a deal. The lore has never been that big of a deal in Star Wars movies. But if you were, like, attached to the extended universe where, like, every single little detail got filled in by somebody. And it got changed with the movie, then obviously you're gonna be pissed. But, like, maybe you shouldn't be getting attached to that then. Maybe you should, like, expand beyond just caring only about the lore. And Star Wars isn't maybe as applicable because it's not a game. It is an entertainment medium, mostly with movies and books. But Warhammer is like a game first and foremost. And the lore kind of spins off of the game in books and, audiobooks and that kind of stuff. And it's the people who are, like, only interested in the books. And a lot of the time, I feel like it's not even the people who are only interested in the book. Because, like, I don't want to be mean, but that would require these people to have read the books. And I get the feeling a lot of the time that, like, the worst people that I'm talking about here don't read the books. They just listen to the lore YouTubers who themselves don't always read the books and instead just read it off the fucking wiki page. Like, for fuck's sake, dude, I don't know, maybe I'm just rambling, but, like, like, that's the feeling I get sometimes. Like, these people don't actually, like, they don't know that much about the lore. They just know that, like, there's a canon reason for why female space marines can't happen. But you know what the real reason is? It's because they didn't sell that well in the 80s, and so GW just decided to stop making female space marine models. And then they had to come up with a reason why they didn't allow, why there weren't female space marines. So they just made up a fucking reason. Like, that's it. That's the reason. They didn't sell that well in the 80s because they marketed it to boys, and boys didn't want to play with the girls. So, like, they stopped making them. They are old, like, original female space marine models. There's only, like, one or two, but they exist. It was a thing. Oh, yeah. For sure, like, people would buy that shit. And really, all they need to do is make female space marine heads. Because let's be real, with the amount of augmentation that, like, goes on with the space marines, like, they might have, they're all gonna look the same anyway. They're gonna look like big, beefy humans. But, like, slightly more feminine faces would, there's a ton of armor, like the big shoulder pads and all that, they just get bigger and bigger. But, like, and I mean, obviously for now, just using the Stormcast, I don't want to, if GW did that, that would be cause for outrage. It'd be stupid outrage, and it'd just be dumb cultural bullshit, but that would be cause for, like, I would agree with the people who got angry at that, alright? Like, that would be very dumb. Don't do that, please. Please, there's enough boob plate out there. We don't need to see more. And I like boob plate. But not on futuristic space marine that is supposed to be, like, real looking-ish. Yeah. I say that, but then, like, I realize how dumb that sounded. Yeah, But, like, the Tau in 40K have female and male models. And they don't really look that different, to be honest. They all look like armored sci-fi warriors. The only real difference is that, like, the faces look a bit more feminine on some, and I think Shadow Sun is, like, canonically female. And, like, that's it. That's the representation that people want to see, I think. I don't know. Oh. So it isn't official. It isn't canon. But there is the potential for trans representation with the Stormcast Eternal. Because the Stormcast are, like, the idealized version of the human and technically elves and dwarves that they come from. Yeah, they're like the idealized version. You know, they're 8 foot tall, like, you know, all that's being taken is their soul. And that soul is being, like, reforged into the perfect, you know, their perfect form. And because of that, you can get trans characters who were, say, male in their human life, but are now female Stormcast Eternal. And obviously, that wouldn't be represented on the board game, that would be through a story. But there's plenty of stories being written, you know? I think it's something interesting, and I think it's an avenue that they could explore that would actually be pretty cool to see. Just because, like, we don't really see that in a lot of media, like, you know, reincarnated characters being, like, made different than they were before, like, in a substantial way. So, again, it's the potential. The potential is there. And I know that there are a lot of people, whether there are some people on some of the subs that I follow, shouting out big Marxism. Shouting out big Marxism again. Because I know that potential exists, and that there's a couple of people who have done that. It's like, that's their lore for them. Genlock. I don't think I have, no. I feel like you're gonna start explaining it to me, and I'm gonna be like, no, it's fucking glazed over my head. Then it sounds like an anime. Is that an anime? Huh. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, 100%, you know. In the far future, 40,000 years into the future, you know, why wouldn't people sort of see gender as, like, this irrelevant, meaningless, you know, arbitrary, thing, you know? Social construct. It is, at its root, an arbitrary social construct. Obviously, because we put stock into it, it means something, but 40,000 years in the future, why would they give a fuck? You know? And I know it's an argument that's been made with the tech priest before, the AdMech. Like, just the sheer amount of, like, transformation, you know, biotransformation, and, you know, the mechanical stuff that they put onto themselves. What use do they have for gender, you know? If it's a human, you know, frame with a bunch of mechanical bits sticking out of it, yeah, you know? Like, I mean, like, if you can replace your dick with a fucking, you know, laser beam, what use does having, you know, does referring to you as he or she have, you know? At that point, it would just be like some gender-neutral pronoun. For us, it would probably be they, but I'm sure, you know, as language develops, you know, 40,000 years into the future, I'm sure they'd have something else. But, like, you know, you're keeping yourself alive with, like, mechanical pistons and pumps, and you got, like, tendrils of iron jutting out of your back, and, like, half of your organs have been replaced by, you know, fucking mechanical versions of those organs. Are you, like, how human are you at that point, really, you know? What point is there to stick to human, you know, gender roles and, conscription, or adscription, sorry. So yeah, like that. I mean, that's the point I've seen made. It's actually, I don't know if you've been banned off of YouTube, but have you ever heard of a YouTuber called Arch Warhammer? So, first off, I'm gonna poison well. He's a fucking Nazi. Like, full blown. Like, I mean, he made a video defending the Christchurch shooter. Like, he's a Nazi. Like, there's no if, buts, and, whatever about it. It's not that, Anyway. He's no longer called Arch Warhammer because Warhammer threatened to sue his ass, or GW threatened to sue him, if he kept the Warhammer, brand on his, with him, because he's, like, that repugnant. Oh boy. There's a lot to talk about. You remember when I was saying, like, lore YouTubers who just read off the fucking wiki? He's easily one of the worst at that. Like, it's very obvious that he hasn't read most of the books that he's talking about. And there was actually a book that he was talking about that he straight up admitted he hadn't read. And it involved a character with, like, I think the pronoun, like, thee and there. Like, XE and XER, like, one of the, like, new pronoun things. I don't put that much stock into it. I don't know that many people who use them. Like, I don't know. It seems kind of pointless, but that's just me. Anyway, there's a character in that book that uses those pronouns. And he just can't fucking wrap his mind around it. It's insane. And he actually, at one point, yeah, maybe, in the future where, like, that becomes, like, a generally accepted, like, gender-neutral pronoun, I can see it. But, I don't know, right now I don't. It's too niche for me, I guess. Anyway, he makes the argument in that video where he's talking about this book that the Adeptus Mechanicus would actually use and ascribe to gender roles and conventions. Because in his mind, they wouldn't care about gender, and not caring about gender means sticking to the gender roles we've got now. And it broke me a little bit. Like, just saying that back breaks me a little bit, Like, why, like, this? Like, I don't know, dude. Like, they've got metal bits and fucking, robotic parts hanging off of them left, right, and center. Like, I bet most of them don't have genitals anymore because there's no need for them to. Like, why would they stick with gender roles and terms, Like, why not just refer to each other as, fucking they, or, the object, or whatever the fuck. I unfortunately have not. I'm too bad with tech. I actually made... so I got a box of Guitari to make Cultist for 40k. And I think they turned out pretty cool. I added some, like, robotic looking bits to their, like, backs and stuff. The guitar, like, the foot soldiers of the Adeptus Mechanicus, and they don't really have, like, all the crazy, mechanical stuff coming off of them. But I like that part of them. I think that looked fucking amazing, and so I wanted to add. Hey. USB-C, so you're saying they need to replace it with a USB. Got it. You gotta replace it with a dongle. That's what it's called, right? A dongle? Yeah, anyway, like, I don't know, dude. Like, how can you possibly look at the Adeptus Mechanicus and think that they would use gendered pronouns and, like, stick with gendered roles, you know? Like, like, they come out of the fucking vat and get, you know, jammed full of goddamn, like, I mean, he is, like, he's a dipshit. He also puts on the worst fucking larpy accent. It's insane. I think he's, like, Norwegian or something. But he, like, puts on a fake British accent when, like, reading stories and doing this, like, talking message stuff. And I hate it so much. I don't know why he does it. I don't know what he thinks it accomplishes. Like, it sounds horrible. Yeah. It's so bad. I don't know, dude. I mean, obviously I'm poisoning the well here, but, like, listen, if you're nasty at that point, like, the well poisons itself, you know? As far as I'm concerned. I gotta... He's only interested in 40k, but most Warhammer lore channels are. There's not that many lore channels that cross between the two, and there's not that many lore channels that exclusively do AOS stuff. So that's not like a big strike against him. But I don't know, I mean, yeah, for sure. And I think it's harder for, like, Shud to get into AOS. Because AOS is a more transgressive, more progressive-ish. It's not as easy to, like, miss the satire like you can in 40k. You know? Oh, fuck. Like in 40k, you can look at, like, the Imperium of Man and the Space Marine and, like, all that and go, oh yeah, they're the good guys. They are not the good guys. Like, they're only, like, the only person that's worse, in my opinion, than, you know, sorry, the only two factions worse. Not just that, I'll get to them, but the only two, like, factions worse, I think, than the Imperium of Man are the Drukhari, which are the Dark Eldar, and Chaos. And, like, that's it. There's, like, everybody else is miles better than the Imperium of Man. Even the Tyranids, who are just interested in eating everything. But at least they don't, like, fuck over their own people, you know? Same with the Orcs, like, and Tau is probably the goodest, maybe-ish. It's subjective, I don't know. Necrons, again, yeah, you're like, right, like, you can't really put a moral launch fire on Tyranids, because they're more like biological entities that are just interested in eating. Orcs, I think you can, but I still think that they're better than the Imperium Man, like, morally. Because, again, at least they don't fuck over their own people in the, you know, like, vain hope of purity or whatever the fuck. But yeah, anyways, Free Cities in AOS. Technically, they're called Cities of Sigmar now, but Free Cities is fine. Like, they're the same thing. They're a conglomeration of the old elves, dwarves, humans, and dark elves. Elves, you know, and wood elves, but, you know, it's just them, the races working together. You know, and if you're like a racial purist, white nationalist, ethno-state type, you're gonna look at that and go, oh, you know, they're made weaker by it. Motherfucker. They're winning, dude. They got these big nation cities, dude. Like, they're beating chaos for now, but, you know, like, they're doing it. You know, like, I don't know. Like, they're made stronger by their working together, and that's the point of Free City. Is that they're objectively made stronger working together than they are, like, trying to fight things. Yeah, you know, like, for sure. And it's one of the reasons why I play them, you know. The only other thing I play is Stormcast, and I play Free City partly because I can play Stormcast with them, but I digress. Anyway, like, they're the second army I got, you know, like, they're the cooler, you know, they're the coolest army in my opinion. Like, it's amazing, I think, that, you know, you got this faction that's all about jolly cooperation between different species, you know, that have different outlooks on how life works and stuff. And yet they all come together to kick Chaos's ass. The Empire, the cooler Empire. Yeah. Mm-hmm. For sure. I mean, they take the best part of, you know, what the fuck is the Empire called in Total War? Is it just the Empire? It better not be the Empire, man. I'm gonna fucking scream. Swear to God. I hate it when people name shit like that. I understand just the Empire. That's even dumber. I'm sorry. No. The Empire is fine, I suppose. Because I'm sure it had, like, an actual name. If it was the Empire of Man after, like, the Imperium of Man, that would make me scream. It's not, though, is it? There's, like, other human societies, right? I mean, shit, you got the Chaos Race and, like, Northka. You got Kislev, they're not a part of that empire. You got Cathay and Araby. You know, like, is it really the Empire of Man? I don't know. Anyway. Shitty even thing. Whoa there. You're lucky it's just me. Oh. Well, the issue is that they aren't portrayed. Like, they've got a few vague mentions in the old books. Like, they didn't have any tabletop minis, nothing. Like, I get what you mean, now. Yeah, like, it sort of takes, like, the, like, exotic, you know, bit of Chinese lore from, like, what the British would have taken from colonialism. You know, that kind of... I mean, it's bad, but, like, it isn't like, you know, slant-eyed, you know, buck teeth kind of bad, you know? Yeah. And again, like, they didn't have, like, a tabletop betrayal. Oof. They didn't have tabletop portrayal. I think they didn't have much artwork. I think most of the artwork was like their statues and like the cooler bit, not the people itself. And like there was only a tiny little bit of lore for them that I know of. But again, I don't know that much about fantasy. Araby, I think, did get more of that, like, poor, you know, colonialized portrayal. But that, neither here nor there. Colonialism bad, the British are bad, you know. I'm making the hot takes here tonight, you know. But yeah, I mean, my point is that, like, the Empire isn't, like, the only human society out there. You know, they just happen to be the one we focused on. Anyway, what were we talking about? Oh, I was gonna say is that, like, Flying Flurry City takes the best part of the Empire and, like, nothing else. It's got, like, the foot soldiers, pretty standard. Their handguns, and crossbows, but not archers. And then it's got all the artillery. And the wizards, I don't know how much you'd call them necessarily part of the Empire, but they got all the wizards. Roman Archipage, Steam Tank, Hellstorm Rocket Battery, and Hellblaster Water Gun. Handgunner, Flea Guild, they're called Flea Guild, but the Spearman or Swordman or Pikeman or whatever. Right, yeah. That makes sense. I don't know. I mean, the Empire of Altdorf would make sense. Or, like, if Reichland was the, Reichland's the central power, and, you know, when we see it, but anyway. Yeah, I get what you mean, like the Starland and all that. Anyway, unfortunately, I don't think it takes, like, the best parts of the dwarves. Cause the only, like, dwarf stuff is Longbeard, which is the best part of the dwarves, I will say that. Ironbreakers, Iron Breaks. The King, they're called Warden King? Warden Lords, which are like the priests for the dwarves. They're actually super fucking good, holy shit, like underrated as hell. But unfortunately, like, none of the dwarf artillery shows up in Age of Sigmar. Which sucks, because, like, the dwarf artillery is great. Like, it really is a shame. Like, you can proxy, like, old organ cannon models with, like, Hellblaster and Volley guns, but it's not the same, you know? Yeah. I mentioned the High Elves. They only really have, like, 2 models now, and they're 2, like, units now, and it's not 3 technically, but 2 kits, mainly. They've got Phoenix Guard. They've got their Lord. I think they're called the Anointed now. And they've got the Phoenixes themselves. And that's pretty much it. That's all the High Elves got. Wood Elves got Wild Riders, Sisters of the Thorn, Eternal Guard, Wildwood Rangers, Sisters of the Watch, which are the old Avalon, Sisters of Avalon thing. And the Nomad Prince, so like their lord. They didn't get any of the spellcasters or anything for their lord. No Way Watchers, no Way Stalkers, no nothing. So it's not the worst, but it's not great. And then Dark Elves also got, like, Dark Elves got a ton of shit. They got the main footline, Executioner, the Dreadbeard, Dark Shard, Executioner, they all sound the same. pretty much all of the foot soldiers that Dark Elves got. Dreadlord on Dragon, Sorceress, and Sorceress on Dragon. They got the Chariot. They got the Hydra and the big scary monster. They got the Pirate Dark Elves as well. Whose names I am forgetting. Corsairs, sorry. They got the Cold Run Rider. Yeah. I think that's pretty much it. Not at the moment in Age of Sigmar. No. I mean, lore-wise, I think it is a thing. Cause like the Corsairs and stuff are like actual pirates. They like go out onto the seas and stuff and like hunt monsters. But it isn't like a playable thing. I don't think there's a model for a Black Ark yet. That might be a thing that like could come up. You know, like I think that there is a possibility of getting like sea battles with like certain, you know, boat units, but stuff like Idanet Deepkin, Caradron Overlord, in this case would be the pirate. And then for the longest time we were hoping Vampire. Like, holy shit, the hype for Vampire on the Age of Sigmar subreddit was building. Like, basically every little cheeser we got was like, oh, I bet it's Vampire. That looks vaguely like a sail. It's Vampire. He's undead. It's a Vampire. Like Vampire Coast stuff. Unfortunately, it does not seem like we're getting that. Though it's possible that we do, but I doubt we're not getting it as like a full army. Yeah, you know, like Vampire Pirate is cool. You combine it into Vampire, it's cool. I get it. And it would make death actually pretty decent because it'd give them the shooting, which is something they're sorely lacking in pretty much every death army. But unfortunately, unless we get them as like a sub-faction of the Soulblight, it's unlikely that we'll be seeing them in any meaningful way. And if that were to happen, it would be like 3 units. Like a Vampire Captain, maybe a gun shooting unit, and that's about it. Maybe some like zombies or something. No, I guess he's monster. We probably wouldn't do that much. I know lore-wise there is like a Vampire out there in Age of Sigmar. Yeah. Soulblight is the next new faction? I don't know if they count as new. They're definitely... I don't know how many new models they're gonna get, is the big thing. I know they've revealed the White King. It's getting a revamped model. New Vampire Lord model. I know that. And then if I had to take a guess, the like Warhammer Quest Cursed City stuff is probably going to end up being playable in your army in the near future. Or at least like the characters will. Because that was a thing that happened with the first Warhammer Quest like big thing, the Silver Tower. The Dark Oak Chieftain and War Queen, the Knight Quester and Errant Quester, the Gaunt Summoner, and I think a few others were all characters from that like Warhammer Quest thing that ended up becoming playable models in Age of Sigmar proper. And actually not bad stuff either. you know, usually they kind of take on the role of being like a big hero that just hits stuff really hard, but sometimes there's some cool stuff going on. But anyway, that's sort of the deal with that. So, we'll be seeing like Undead Ogre probably as like a unit. Yeah. It's not a GW one, but there's one. Already out. It's been out for a while. It's called Soulbound. And it takes place in the Age of Sigmar universe. You can play as... You want to say you can play as any... like a character from any of the... anything in the Order of Grand Alliance. So like Lizardmen, Fire Slayers, Caradron, Stormcast, Humans, Elves, Dwarves, Sylvaneth, all that stuff. Ideneth, God of the Cane, all that stuff. And I've heard it's actually pretty decent. But I haven't seen like any gameplay from it. Yeah, like I said, it's not officially made by GW, but it is pretty close to like, you know, being, you know, consistent with canon and stuff. And then, while it isn't technically a role-playing game, Warcry and Underworld get kinda close, in that your character, like each model in your little warband, are individual characters. They're not like part of a bigger unit, they're like their own people. You move them around as their own person, they attack as their own person, that kind of thing. So like these guys. Yeah. Basically, and it's like meant to be like a skirmish thing. For sure, yeah, Fire Emblem's probably closer. So like you've got this guy who's like the leader, and he's his own character, and he moves over here. And then you got this guy who's his own character, and maybe he was like, nah dude, I'm moving over here. And you got this guy who's like, I'm gonna shoot this guy over here. You know, your own characters. And you can roleplay them as much as you want. It is still like a war game, so, you know, the roleplay in and of itself isn't that, like, it is debatable. And then there's narrative play, where you do Sigma proper. And this is where, like, you build a bigger story around, like, why a battle is happening. And you can go as deep as you want on that. You know, you don't have to stick to, like, the rules of, like, the points and, like, following the point rules. You can just be like, hey, you've got, you know, all of those, you know, death guys. I've got my lizard man army. Let's just come up with a reason why they'd fight. And throw them at each other without caring about, like, how many points we're spending on them. And like, yeah, like a campaign. That's actually a thing you can do, both for Warcry and for Age of Sigmar. You can play. They're called narrative campaigns. For Warcry, like each battle would be part of like a bigger story. And your characters wouldn't necessarily die even if they get, like, you know, taken down in combat. They might get, like, wounded, there's maybe a chance that they'll die or whatever. And I know Kill Team for 40k does the same thing. Huh. I've never heard of this game. But I'm not a big, you know, so Star Trek guy, I guess. And then for Age of Sigmar, there's narrative campaign, where like you play multiple battles. That makes sense, yeah. You play multiple battles, with like various different units and stuff. And you come up with like a story about like what's going on. Each battle, like the way it comes out, determines the next plot line in the story. So like, say these guys are part of a bigger Zinch army, and they beat your Lizardmen army. That means that your Lizardmen army is like on the back foot, and the next battle would be like your army trying to retreat. While this army chases you, and that kind of thing. And then there's also something called Path to Glory. Path to Glory is interesting. Basically, you start out with like a hero unit, and it's like a leader, and like you have a certain amount of points that you can buy other units, usually like foot soldiers or whatever. And you play multiple games with these, like regular 40k or like regular AOS games. And each game you get more points that you're allowed to buy more units with. And I don't remember if it's single modeled or full unit. And like the point is that like you build up as you're playing this campaign of tiny battles. You start building up this bigger warband. I've never tried out Path to Glory, but it sounds interesting, and I'd like to try it out. As I understand it, it's cool to do it in like a 4-person like tournament bracket, where like so like the first battle is maybe all 4 of you, free for all, and then like, then you have like battles against one another, and like the idea that your army is constantly changing. It's never the same army every time. You've got different models, different units you can play with. It's interesting. Each battle tone that comes out comes with like its own. Path to Glory pointless for trying it out. And you like get reward for winning battles. And you can like permanently lose units and not be able to play them anymore. If you like lose or whatever. It's interesting. Anyway, it has been 3.5 hours. My throat is getting sore. It does, yeah. I haven't been able to try it out yet, but it sounds cool. I'm going to wrap up for the night. I'm gonna chat with Matt. Yeah. And see if I can't get like a tabletop simulator game up tomorrow. And see if I can't stream that. Because hopefully that'll actually go pretty well. Anyways, good night. If you enjoyed this senseless rambling, feel free to follow. I'm gonna try and do it more. My internet's now actually usable. I can stream now. I usually do a lot more painting than I have tonight. Yeah. Good night.